So thank you once again everyone for joining with us. I will recap what we did yesterday, wherein the gambling match we discussed why Yudhishthira Maharaj basically got into this gambling match. The main principle of Yudhishthira Maharaj getting into playing gambling match was because submission to the superiors. That was the main reason. And secondly, because Yudhishthira was such a good person, very sensitive person, he would not ever want anybody to be harmed because of him. Like we read in the Bhagavatam, is called as Ajata Shatru. Ajata Shatru means for whom no enemy is born. Others considered him as an enemy, but he never. But this very reason of Yudhishthira Maharaj's goodness was misused by his very close family members and relatives, and they tried to exploit him. And he lost everything in the gambling match. And then again, when by the grace of Draupadi, when they got back everything what they were supposed to get back, again Duryodhan called him back for the gambling match. And second time, Yudhishthira Maharaj, if you read that part of the Mahabharat, especially the original verses if you read, what does he do? As if some other force forcing him beyond his intelligence. He said, just like Lord Ramachandra knew very well there was no such thing as a golden deer, but still he chased after that deer. Similarly, Yudhishthira Maharaj said, I am being forced by my destiny to go and play this gambling match. And he made another statement which I did not discuss yesterday. He said, the death of Kurukula has become inevitable. Here we see Yudhishthira Maharaj was denying for accepting himself as an instrument. Right, Vyasadeva had told him that you will be an instrument. Krishna in one sense gave all the indication, but today when he was walking into the gambling den to play once again, to lose everything, he gave the example of Lord Ram, and then he gave his own example that I need to go because I think so, what was predicted is going to happen. So from that point of onwards, we start seeing the transformation in Yudhishthira Maharaj. And it is a complete journey. How many years? 13 years they stayed in the forest. And every day was a day of uncertainty. Right? Like we see this COVID situation, I was talking to somebody. What is the greatest gamble here? The greatest gamble is here that those who want to live for some purpose, for them living is not important. For them purpose is very important. If that purpose is not achieved, then the living becomes useless. But unless you live, you cannot fulfill your purpose. Do you see the gambling here, the conflict? Just existing is very painful, but unless you exist, you cannot fulfill the purpose for what you are existing for. Just see, this is called as a gambling match. You can't just live, at the same time you can't just go out and do everything as normal as possible. So this is the big conflict. So Yudhishthira Maharaj realized that there is a purpose for which I have come. If you remember, if you read the Mahabharat, when Kunti raised her children in the forest setting, beautiful, community where people had no agenda other than self-satisfaction. Everybody was living there, they had living a retired life. Almost like Vrindavan, there is no competition. After the death of Pandu Maharaj, she wanted to stay there, But the rishis, the brahmanas in the forest, they said, my dear Kunti, this is not the place for you. This is not the place for your children. They are not meant to live a life of vanaprastha at this stage. There is a stage for everything. So therefore, better you take your children back to Hastinapur. And the very day when they appeared in Hastinapur, you know what? The entire Hastinapur had a propaganda, of course created by Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana and party, sending this news to everybody that the Pandavas are not the legitimate children of the Kurukula. They are not part of the Kurukul. They were procreated by somebody else. How can they be children of, the Kurukula? So therefore they should be rejected. Kunti is bringing her children and that's what she hears. You can imagine the conflict begin from very first day. They were happy living in the forest, but there was a responsibility. Therefore, very interestingly, what you like is not necessarily what you are. It is not that what you like is not necessarily your nature, your character, your disposition. And just because something is your disposition doesn't mean that you immediately like it. It is not necessarily true. It's a very interesting principle. So the Pandavas, what was good for them, what was their nature? They were Kshatriyas. But they did not like to come to Hastinapur because it was surrounded by so much of conspiracy. They were happy being in the forest, but that was not their nature. Therefore, liking has to be the consequences of our disposition. Otherwise, liking remains very superficial. It is only a question of time that liking will fall apart. It will disintegrate because liking happens because we bring the impressions from outside. The outside influence, what does it make us? We start believing that I like it, but it may not be our disposition, our swadharma. So Yudhishthira Maharaj did not like at all being a ruler. Yudhishthira Maharaj did not like being, imposing his authority over others. But in his journey realized it is not about what I like, it is about who I am. The principle of swadharma is different from my passion. It is different from my liking. I may like to do something which is adharmic. Get up 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. That is not necessarily what is my nature. That's a habit which we develop. So therefore, the swadharma, being a ruler, being a kshatriya, not everybody likes. But then eventually if they understand that this is how I have been made, in the long run, therefore Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he explains that what is nectar in the beginning, very interesting, this is what Krishna is saying, what is nectar in the beginning will turn into a poison in the future. And what is poison in the beginning may turn into be nectar in the future. Therefore, the journey of Yudhishthira Maharaj from being a nicest of the nice person continued to remain nice person. But then he started inculcating those qualities which was beneficial for his personal growth, and along with his growth, the growth of the entire citizens whom he was ruling. So there are three nitis in the Shastras: Shukra Niti, Brahaspati Niti and Kanika Niti. Niti is the strategy, Niti is the psychology, Niti is the culture, Niti could be, your systems of governance. Right. So what is Brahaspati Niti? Brahaspati Niti, Brahaspati being a Deva Guru, the Guru of the Devas, his principle is that do everything by only good means. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for what purpose you are doing, what is the, people whom you have to deal in the opposite party, that does not matter. The opposite party is a cheat, the opposite party is a crook, the opposite party is a liar, whatever they are, it doesn't matter. You do not give up your dharma of honesty, transparency and truthfulness. So what will happen? The Devas will always be defeated if they follow the Brihaspati's niti while fighting the Rakshasas. Because one of the main character of the Rakshasas, other than the power, is deception. Their greatest weapon is deception. Their greatest weapon is propaganda. Their greatest weapon is aggression. And their greatest weapon while doing all this thing is playing a victim card. We are Rakshasas. Lord Vishnu has not been impartial to us. They cry victim card all the time while perpetually causing limitless violence. How can you fight them? With Brihaspati Niti. Yes, you can choose to fight with Brihaspati Niti, because your goal of life is to remain truthful. But the problem with this is, it is not only you. You are part of a society. You are not living an isolated life. You have a family. You have a community. Right? So therefore, if you are living in a deep ashram kind of life, like today morning we were discussing about Shukadeva Goswami waiting for 7 days in each gate, 7 such gates, to meet Janak Maharaj, because his father sent him, go to meet Janak Maharaj. He waited for 49 days to have an audience of Janak Maharaj, who was a king and a householder, and Shukadeva Goswami was a renowned sage from a very beginning. Now he has such a temperament, he had such a temperament, he did not get disturbed even a bit. When he came to speak Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, he did not have this passion, I need to speak because I have studied Bhagavatam, now I need to speak, I need to have an audience. Our passion to speak, the disposition of Shukadeva Goswami is born out of our ambitions and our desires. No? And we force everybody to become Parikshit Maharaj. Shukadeva Goswami came to speak to Parikshit Maharaj, who was about to quit his responsibility because he was cursed to die within 7 days. And when the Bhagavatam was spoken, he just walked away. He did not stay there. So therefore, Brihaspati Niti in a regular day-to-day life will not operate. It will become redundant, it will become useless. Forget, in your own house, when your daughter or your child, your son is not willing to take the medicine, even the greatest of the truthful person, will you tell your child, my dear child, this medicine is not bitter? Or will you tell the child, this medicine is very bitter, this injection hurts you, it will cause pain to you, it pricks you? Will you tell that? You will not tell. You will tell the child, it is nothing, there is no pain, it is not the medicine, it's a chocolate, it's a cold chocolate, please have it. Generally, a mother begins her interaction with the children, a stubborn child, by deceptionally trying to cheat him for the purpose of the child's good. Think about it. I would say 90% of the mothers, they are forced to speak the lie in the very house. While you are raising your baby itself, the Brihaspati Niti falters. That does not mean that we do not practice Brihaspati Niti. The goal is Brihaspati Niti. But the consequences of practicing Brihaspati Niti everywhere may not be functional reality. Why? Because the other party is operating on the principle of Kanika Niti. What is Kanika Niti? I would recommend to those devotees who are interested how Kanika Niti is nothing but modern economics. What is it? It is driven by pure selfishness for the sake of selfishness. There is no other purpose other than self. The self does not become selfless. It is not that first I will feed myself little bit, I will put the oxygen mask, then I will place on others. No, I will place my oxygen mask. I will not place oxygen masks to others. I will put poison into their mask, or I will not give masks to them. Let them die, let their number be reduced. This is called as Kanika Niti. And the Kauravas actually followed the Kanika Niti. They followed the Kanika Niti. And one or two principles of Kanika Niti is, Kanika tells Dhritarashtra, Duryodhan, he said, you know what, when you are able to kill your very close relative, you should not hesitate to kill them cold-blooded. But after killing, you should not fail to shed tears for the death of your close family member. And those tears should be as authentic as possible so that nobody recognize you. He said, do not leave your enemies, don't give them any chance. Wipe them, finish them, and if that happens to be your own father, your own family members also, do not hesitate to destroy them. But play such an important role of being very kind and compassionate. Isliye, therefore he said, very interesting, he said one of the quality of with Kanika Niti is not to exhibit your anger, frustrations. You have to be Mr. Cool. You know, as if you are so much equipoised in your nature. As much as you are sweet in your disposition, that much your poison would be deadly. Just understand. Therefore, this so-called refined culture of good manners, they don't mean anything. Sweetness without justice is very dangerous. And Kanika said this too with Kauravas, and that's what they were practicing all the time. How do you think Dhritarashtra sent the Pandavas to the Lakshagraha? With a sweet word on his face, thinking of their goodwill, asking them to go to the temple, asking them to go for the outing. How did you think he invited them for a gambling match? He did not bully them around. He did not threaten them. Rather, he said, you please come to this sweet, beautiful party. You know, we are just celebrating this party. You come here, Yudhishthira Maharaj, my dear child, come here. He called him my dear child. And therefore, what Dhritarashtra does is, he puts such a sweet demeanor when he talks to the Pandavas. He plays always the victim card. And these are his most deadliest weapon to destroy. Right? So, how can Brahaspati Niti handle this? And therefore, the Shukra Niti comes into the picture. Now, who's Shukracharya? Shukracharya is none other than, in one sense, the brother of Brahaspati only. And in the Bhagavatam 7th canto, you read the purport also, our Srila Prabhupada gives Shukra Niti. Remember, somebody had asked him, or he asked some devotees, what do you think I am? Do you think I am very simple or I am crooked? He means smart. What do you think I am? And the devotees answered, I think Prabhupada, you are simple. He said, that's stupid. He said, if I was not smart, how is that I would attract you? Because I am smart, therefore I was able to attract all of you. And therefore he could never tolerate somebody getting cheated. It is not about the money, it's about getting cheated. So therefore, the principle of being smart while maintaining the goodness becomes the journey of the Pandavas. And as much as you are trying to grow bigger and bigger, that much you are supposed to be more and more selfless and selfless. And that's much you are supposed to take more and more risk. So therefore, gambling of Yudhishthira Maharaj is not simple just gambling. The Yudhishthira Maharaj's gambling is connected to taking risk of his own conscience, putting test of his conscience, apparently looking that is becoming selfish, but not at all becoming selfish. That is the principle of yoga. So therefore, what did he say, Shukracharya? Shukracharya said, learned scholars do not praise that charity which endangers one's own livelihood. Charity, sacrifice, austerity and fruitive activities are possible for one who is competent to earn his livelihood properly. They are not possible for one who cannot maintain himself. Self-preservation. Self-preservation. Even you want to do self-sacrifice, there has to be the element of self-preservation. Then he said, therefore, one who is in full knowledge should divide his accumulated wealth in 5 parts. For dharma, for reputation, for opulence, for sense gratification and for the maintenance of his family member. Such a person is happy in this world and in the next world. Even for that matter, Rupa Goswami talks about wealth divided into 2 parts, right? And with that, half of it, how you have to use in emergency. Even while giving charity, there is the principle of self-preservation. When Lord Chaitanya's followers like Gopinath Patnaik, when he was freed by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, they all decided that we want to dedicate fully our life to Mahaprabhu. He said, no, already Ramanandra has done. He said, be there, be there. He insisted that be there with the family, right? So here Shukracharya, one may say, but this is not pure devotional service, but this is not proper thing. This is very cheating. As I said, try living like that. Show me that you live like that and see what happens. At the same time, in the name of serving your family and serving your cause of institution, country, you cannot justify the action of being the follower of Shukracharya. It's a great, it's a very thin fine line between dharma and adharma. And then Shukracharya says, in flattering a woman to bring her under control, in joking in a marriage ceremony, in earning one's livelihood when one's life is in danger, in protecting cows and a Brahminical culture, or in protecting a person from an enemy's hand, falsity is never condemned. It is never condemned. Now there could be big dialogues about this, right? That's a subject matter, it's a different only totally. We are focusing on Yudhishthira Maharaj's transformation and how he was able to reconcile between truthfulness and the purpose of speaking the truth. झूठ न बोलना, सत्य बोलना और सत्य के साम्राज्य को स्थापित करना, not telling the lie and establishing the kingdom of truthfulness. So we will study this, try to see the transformation. When the good gets cheated, what happens? When the good gets cheated, the powerful rule, and these powerfuls are not necessarily good. And therefore, one of the most important and redundant question we ask, and nobody thinks about it. I have told this many times. One of our very famous police officer retired. He was in charge of the entire Maharashtra police department at one point of time for 3-4 years. He was so good, never had any corruption, never took any bribe, never did anything wrong. In his 30 years of service, he was transferred 29 times. And some politicians who are in the ruling, in the Maharashtra state, right, he was the one who made their life miserable, because he was so non-corrupt. Right. And he made a very interesting point once. He came to our temple, he used to come, he left his body recently on Ekadashi day. He said, you know what? People ask this question, why bad things happen to good people? There is a entire session where we do course on the Bhagavad Gita, why bad things happen to good people. Who am I? Right. What is Bhakti Yoga? In search of happiness. But why bad things happen to good people? Our people say also many times, bad things does not happen to good people, only bad happens to bad people and good happens to good people. Right? That is right answer. But what Shastra is telling us, he said your good activities does not immediately guarantee good results. It does not guarantee good results immediately. It may take some times. That is one answer. And second answer, this police officer told me, why bad things happen to good people? It's there in the Mahabharat. But he put it so simply. He said, because good people do not stand against injustice. The good people do not stand against injustice. Therefore, the good people suffer. Bear this and understand this in mind. Just because you are good, you will not experience good. It may take long time. And while trying to experience good, by being good alone without taking an action, you might get frustrated. It happens many times. I was so good, I did not do this, I did not do that. People do talk about it. They feel victim that I remain good, and what did I get? I did get nothing, and therefore they raise this question. Actually, good does not happen to good people. Only bad happens to good people. Therefore, this is all humbug, but we are conditioned to do good, but we are telling our children, no more be good. Their realization is based upon frustration. Therefore, there is a difference between learning and experiencing. The teacher can teach. The teacher can teach, but is not responsible for making the student understand. It is not the teacher's responsibility. I cannot thirst the understanding in you. It is my responsibility to communicate as properly as possible, but learning is your responsibility. Right? Learning is your responsibility. Many times people don't learn only. So let us understand what is Dyuta. The word Dyuta, gambling, the word Dyuta is connected to duality. Dwapara. What is Dwapara? Dwapara denotes two gates, good and bad, dharma and adharma. In the very house, right, the deception was getting cooked. Therefore, the word dice in English, it's a plural word for die. Now, the dice has become both singular and plural. In Sanskrit, Dyuta represents duality, dvandva. Every victory has the power to give rise to future failures. And every failure, with a proper learning of the lesson, has the power to make your life future success. We see that. For those who are expert in living, surviving, what is their understanding? Their understanding is, I do not consider it just living. It is not about just living. I consider this is an investment for future growth. They are able to reconcile between living and living for a purpose. They want to take a baby step, because there is nothing but baby step in COVID-19, right? So this game is like that. when they were playing the gambling match, it's very interesting. As they were playing the gambling match, every time when Shakuni would throw the dice, Yudhishthira would always ask 4 or 3, 4 or 3, and Shakuni would always ask for 1 or 2, 1 or 2. Very interesting. Why Yudhishthira is always asking 3 or 4 number when you throw the dice? He would always ask 3 or 4, and Shakuni would always ask for 1 or 2. Now the 4 things represents the 4 pillars of dharma, right? 4 pillars of dharma: daya, satya, saucha and tapasya. And what is Shakuni? Why is he asking 1 or 2? Shakuni's principle is follow rules as less as possible. As less rules you follow, that much your profit becomes faster. You have a special position to grow in life. Therefore, winning at any cost is Shakuni's rule. And for winning at any cost, you have to use minimal rule. आगे देखेगा क्या होता है. And Yudhishthira's life was, it doesn't matter. You try to follow all the rules. Daya, satya, saucha, tapasya. And because the dice was thrown by Shakuni, what would happen? He would not win only. It was the battle between Satya and Treta against Dwapara and Kali. And Dwapara and Kali are very expert in cheating. In Treta and Satya, they would fight with great heroism, but without deception. But Kali and Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, become cause of great destruction because cheating becomes very, very high. And if you want to flourish and survive, you have to learn to live in such a way the dignity is there, but the smartness also has to be there. So let us see Krishna. We discussed the Dyutam Chalayatam Asmi. I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid I am the splendor, I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. Now why would you say these kind of verses in Bhagavad Gita? Right? Krishna is saying, I am also the gambling of the cheats. And in the very 3rd chapter, Krishna says, Yadyad acharati sreshtas tattad evetaro janaha satpramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. He says, as the leaders set an example, the subordinates follow. And Prabhupada says, king, teacher and the parents are the natural leaders of their subordinate. If father is smoking cigarette and is telling the child not to smoke, big contradiction. His father is telling the child, tell that I am not there in the home, and the child calls and tells dad is not there in the home, he realizes I will also have to use. If Krishna is giving big bhashan in the 3rd chapter, Name parthastu kartavya trishu lokeshu kenchana nanavaptam avaptavam, he said I have no duties to perform, but if I do not perform the duty, everybody will follow my path. If they follow my path, then everybody will go to ruination. Therefore Arjuna, even though you are self-realized, it is better that perform your duty. But why is he saying like this in the 7th chapter, in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? Let us understand this. How many places Krishna cheated Bali Maharaj? Krishna cheated Jalandhar, Tulsi story. Krishna cheated Jarasandha by disguising as a Brahmana. Sri Ramchandra, epitome of great Adarsha, he was hiding behind a bush or a tree and killed Vali. Narkarasur's 2 commanders. Krishna arranged in such a way that the news was spread that there was a benediction for them that unless one person die, other will not die, twin brothers. So the news was spread, ki this brother is dead. and hearing the propaganda of death of a brother, the other brother committed suicide. When the guy realized that my brother died in the name of I died, therefore he committed suicide, the other brother also committed suicide. And who spread these rumors? Krishna spread these rumors. Why did he spread these rumors? Because that is the only way you could eliminate them. And therefore, before the Samudra Manthan happened, Krishna, Lord Hari told all the Devatas, try to make truce with them. Now don't fight with them. You need them. Fight them, you'll be finished. Because they are Mritta Sanjivani Vidya and you don't have one. Therefore, let us collect this Amrut. And what did Lord Narayan do? Lord Hari did. They are equal to him, but he was partial to the Devatas. He cheated. How did he cheat? He bring the Mohini Murti, disguised himself as the most beautiful personality. After Dhanvantari, Mohini Murti came. And the Rakshasas were fascinated. They forgot the juice. They said, here is the greater nectar. The nectar of women's beauty. They came. And Mohini Murti very systematically cheated, gave all the nectar to the Devatas, and then he disappeared. Right. So therefore, here we see our Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he came to the forest to spend his 12 years in the forest and 1 year incognito, when he came there, what did he see? He was feeling some kind of pain of not serving 60,000 Brahmanas who were traveling with him. Shaunak Muni came to him and he said, my dear king, what is this? Why are you so attached? You are supposed to be the great personalities. There is no point of being attached. All this service to others useless. Just focus on your growth. It's unnecessary attachment. Yudhishthira Maharaj said, this is not for me. I need to I need to take care of these people. That was a strategy, or that was it a compassion? For a king, it is important he should be compassionate. But along with compassion, he should also have an agenda that my investment increases in the form of loyalty. So these 60,000 people who are loyal to Yudhishthira Maharaj because he gave them fed, they never moved away from his followers. Is it compassion or is it strategy? Simple principle, in your compassion, there has to be a strategy for growth, not selfish growth. And in your desire to grow, understand here, in your compassion, there should be a facility for growth, and in your growth, there has to be unmotivated desire to help others. When such harmony happens between the two, what does it do? It helps you to grow. So Yudhishthira Maharaj asked for the Akshaya Patra. And every day he was serving these Brahmanas. What happens when you eat? That's what Bhishma said yesterday, right? If you feed somebody every day for so many years, especially student community, they bless you limitedly. And when they become adults, where do they want to work with? They would rather work with their master who fed them rather than working for somebody else. Therefore, in charity, there is a compassion. But within that charity, because he was a king, there was also an element of profit. What is my profit in this? Is it good, bad, ugly? What is it? That is how life is. A philosophy of life, we talk about good, bad and ugly. While keeping that philosophical premises in the forefront of our life, one has to take the decision. Then we see Yudhishthira Maharaj, the Daiva, this is where Yudhishthira Maharaj and Bhima are discussing. This is one of the great revelation. Bhima said Yudhishthira Maharaj, my dear brother, you know what, this is unfair on your part that you are making us stay for 13 years. Why should we follow this rule? Who are they to tell us to follow 13 years? Are they our king? Are they our justice dispenser? Who are they? No, we will go back within 13 days. It's over now. 3 months are over, 13 days is over, it's as good as 13 years. He gave so many logic to Yudhishthira Maharaj. We have to go and fight him, because you cannot not fight with them, because those who do not respect their own position, they don't fight back, nobody respects them. He said, just see Lord Brahma. He said, Lord Brahma, doesn't have any weapon and nobody worship, he doesn't have temple anywhere. Brahmaji, example is given by Bhima. He said, what are you doing this? And then he said, only those who have weapons, they are worship. My dear brother, please raise your weapon, give us the order, we will go. And Yudhishthira Maharaj said, my dear brother, I understand, it's okay, forgiveness is greater than punishment, we should be forgiving. Here it sounds that Yudhishthira Maharaj is like Mahatma Gandhi. Somebody slaps you, give your next cheeks. Somebody slaps you on other cheek, give your next lip. It's a very symbolic. If there is a anger, frustration, somebody is so angry with you, you may walk away from the fight. But if you give your cheeks, what will happen? Your cheeks will be beaten blue and black, not once for one cheek and once for other cheek. Repeatedly you will be beaten. And when you get beaten by people again and again, I am not saying go out in the streets of London, New York, Bombay and fight with people. No, we are talking about disposition of psychology, of standing assertively. People don't take you seriously. And where did Krishna tell this? We don't give notice to this. Krishna told Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, if you think that by going away from the battlefield, you will be glorified, other way it will happen. People will call you cowherd, that Arjuna ran away from the battlefield. They will not appreciate and glorify for your good conduct. They will only condemn you. And Arjun, for a Kshatriya, one who is honored, dishonor is worse than death. Therefore, rise, O Arjuna. Rise from your slumber and be ready to strike. For what? Just for the sake of revenge? No. He said you fight because you have to establish dharma. So Yudhishthira Maharaj kept on back and forth. He was playing around with Bhima, forgiveness is better. And eventually he said, my dear brother, you should understand that we cannot strike them for 3 reasons. What is the one reason? The one reason where we cannot strike the Kauravas, because we do not have enough resources to fight them. We do not have enough resources to fight them. Second reason, even if you go, all those kings who helped us in the Rajasuya sacrifice, they will not stand by us. We have lost them forever. And the most important reason, my dear brother, is because, you know what? Because Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, they will not stand neutral, they will fight against us. So how will you fight this great Maharathis unless you have divine weapons? So therefore hold on. Bhima said, you know what, my dear brother? He said, you are talking me to stay patient. He said, what guarantee is there we are going to live for long? Better we do it now only. This is the time to do something good, because tomorrow nobody knows. Let us go and strike. Beautiful logic. But what did Yudhishthira Maharaj say? My dear brother, listen to me carefully. Now this is Yudhishthira. He said, listen to me carefully. I went to gamble in Hastinapur not to be cheated by them. I went to Hastinapur to gamble with him, not to lose everything. I went to Hastinapur to gamble with the Kauravas because I wanted to take all their property. Bhima was shocked. He said, what are you talking? And Yudhishthira Maharaj said, my dear brother, because they are our relatives and they did not give us the tribute. Bole, are to hum aapke hi hai, we are yours only. So the king should never forgive that. He has to collect tributary from everybody. I did not get to collect from them. Therefore I decided I will go. I will fight them in gambling match, defeat them and take everything away from them and let them be our subordinate. That was the plan of Yudhishthira Maharaj. And how do you think this plan is approved? Because Yudhishthira Maharaj is a student of a Veda. He knows the Vedas. In one section of the Veda it is explained When your own relatives are not giving you tributary, you can't ask also. Best invite them for a friendly gambling match. When they come to a friendly gambling match, by your power, your strategy, your expertise, you cheat them. By cheating them, what happens? You remove all the rival force, and then you rule with dharma properly. When Bhima heard it, it's okay, but how long will we wait? And why should we wait? What if we die? Then Yudhishthira Maharaj said, do you remember what Vyasdeva had told? Vyasdeva told us, unless 13 years are over, 13 years are a preparation time. Again, when you want to deliver justice, many times in devotional life, in spiritual life, we go through a lot of, sometimes we feel that we are misjudged, there is injustice against us, and we wait for our authorities to take the decision, and it happens that they take time, and within 13 days we lose our faith. In 13 days we conclude that everything is wrong. In 13 days the concept of gratitude goes into the wind. What happened to all my spiritual discipline, conviction and faith? We lack patience. So therefore Bhima said, I might die. How can we wait for 13 years? He said, this is the prediction of our great Vyasadeva, that he had told, in 13 years what will happen? We will come back and fight them. So therefore Yudhishthira Maharaj revealed that secret. Transformation step 2. Because Yudhishthira Maharaj was willing to change, he became thoughtful in regards to performing action. He became Rajarshi. What is Rajarshi? Rajarshi is such a beautiful concept. It is a harmony of Sattva Guna and Tamo Guna. Read the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. For performing action, you need Rajo. If you have a desire, you need Rajo. And Rajo forces you to fulfill your ambitions. मुझे राजा बनना है, मुझे मुख्यमंत्री बनना है, मुझे प्रधानमंत्री बनना है. I want to be the member of parliament from the conservative party or labor party, whichever party you follow. Right. So what is it? It requires Rajo Gun. It is a thought, then it has to be implemented in action. But while putting into action, you also have to be thoughtful. Action without thought is destructive, and thought without action is very poetic, without any tangible. So therefore, Chintan without Kriya is dry philosophy, and Kriya without Chintan is destructive. Action without thought, and thought without action. Transformation step number 2. What did Yudhishthira Maharaj do? Yudhishthira Maharaj took Dharma and he took Kriya. We have discussed this last time. Dharma and Kriya is equivalent to Yoga, and that is Yudhishthira Maharaj. Step number 2, what did Yudhishthira Maharaj do? The first thing is that Vyasadeva gave them the Pratismati vidya. Pratismati vidya means you can see things as they are. There is no ambiguity, there is no unclarity. You are able to see that. There is a sensitivity. So they have a vision, and basically what Shaunak Rishi told Yudhishthira Maharaj, you are winning. Yudhishthira Maharaj, you will win not simply by ordinary behavior. You have to sensitize yourself to the voice of your surrounding. And when you become sensitive to the voice of your surrounding, you take more fruitful and judicious decision in life. Because we don't have the voice of the sensitive surrounding, we depend too much on our gut feeling, which is not the voice of Paramatma. It is basically it is like a kick. Let us see what happens. So therefore, here Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was taught Pratismati vidya by Vyasadeva, and he told that you in turn teach the Pandavas. And what was it do? It would do, it gives the facility to interact with the devatas, and second, one of the greatest thing is to see things the way they are, clear, crystal clear, right? There is a new kind of stock reading, right? There is a, statistically, with probabilities, with data analytics, we can figure out which company's stock will grow, right? Indian market, I was talking to some devotee, they said, he does that kind of business. He said there are a lot of restriction in this regard. Just now in the lunch table, one devotee friend was telling me that he has a friend who is an investor, is a stock investor, and he had purchased the stock of some company when there was a crash, a big crash was there, and he purchased for something very less price, for example £1 or 50-60 rupees, and for 5 to 6 years the rate did not go up only. What would you do? No, he was waiting, then eventually his mentor also told him, no, you just sell it off. And he had gone to tell the mentor, I think, that I think I should sell off. He said, sell off, you have not made any loss, you may not have made any profit, but loss has not happened, sell it off. He sold. This one share of this company which was costing £1 or 60, 70, 80 whatever rupees, it went up to 3000 rupees in 3 or 4 years. Now the question is, did he make a mistake of not gauging it, or was he scary of losing all the money? And when he actually lost all that money, did he lose his life? His mentor told him very nicely, he said, have you seen ants? When the ants get to eat sugar, sometime you see the ants are stuck to the sugar cubes, dead completely. Why? Because the greed to consume more and more kills them. He said there is nothing to lose. There is a loss in profit, but there is no loss in your capital. So therefore, even though there was a loss, the decision what he took could be called as right. He is still peaceful, still functioning, still in the same business, and life is going on. Right? Sometime people who did not make this mistake, they earn big money, they couldn't handle that money. There are stories, one man got a big bumper lottery ticket, and the news of getting that big prize was so difficult for him to handle, he had a massive heart attack. Can you handle the success also? Satyajit could not handle the Shamantaka jewel. Krishna came to tell him, invest in the king's palace. My dear Satyajit, invest. Hey, come on, this is mine, I will not give you. What happened? Satyajit lost everything, including his life, including his brother. He criticized Krishna. He was responsible to create conflict between Krishna and Balaramji. Balaramji walked away from Dwarka, went to Janakpur for Mithila for 3 years. Right? Eventually regretted. He gave his daughter to Krishna, Satyabhama. But it happened so many trouble situation. So just imagine you have been given the vision. What is that vision? The wisdom. It is not about taking the right decision alone. It is about making a right move, and that right move saves you from the greatest danger. And Yudhishthira Maharaj learned that, and he gave it to everybody. Another principle of this Pratismati vidya was, they could invoke Varuna, Kubera, Yama, Rudra and Indra, and they invoked all of them to collect what? To collect weapons. If the Kshatriyas don't work to collect weapons, and if the Kshatriyas place their weapons down, then what will happen? Who will protect the civilization? Step number 4. they actually met the Devatas. Arjuna received Pashupatastra from Lord Shiva, Anjanastra from Parvati. Chitrasen taught Arjuna dance, music, even Rangoli, how to make Rangoli. Arjuna knew how to braid the hair of girls. He became so expert in that. Was it beneficial to him? Of course, in the incognito, Arjuna became such a powerful dancer to the daughters of Virata. Did not stop there. As they were collecting the weapons in our Bharat Bhagya Vidata, we discussed two things: resources and education. The Pandavas went around seeing the rishis all over Bharata Bhumi, across all the rivers. They went to all these places collecting information. And what kind of information they collected? They met the rishis. Who are the rishis? Rishis are not necessarily munis. Rishis are basically, they know the art of living in this world while having the vision to the spiritual world. They harmonize between Iha and Para. They met Lomasha Rishi. They met Brihadashva. Brihadashva told them the long story of Nala and Damayanti. And Brihadashva was one. He gave the benediction to Yudhishthira Maharaj. What is the benediction? In the future, if anybody challenges you in the gambling match, you will win. And in fact, Yudhishthira Maharaj learned the art of gambling better than Shakuni. This is what Mahabharat says. Why would he learn? Because he knew that he will be challenged. And that's what exactly happened on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Duryodhan told Dronacharya, when he became the commander-in-chief, Duryodhan was asked by Drona, what can I do for you, my dear child? And Duryodhan said, my dear Guru, can you capture Yudhishthira alive? Drona was shocked. He said, why does he want me to capture Yudhishthira Maharaj alive? He said, what will you do after capturing? He said, I will invite him for a gambling match again. I will invite and he will be lost. And therefore Pandavas were in great anxiety, trying to protect Yudhishthira Maharaj, because they feared, if you not protect Yudhishthira Maharaj, if they invite him for a gambling match, he might lose. But this time he was not supposed to lose, because he had learned this art. But still they had to be protective. While travelling to Bharata Varsha, they heard from Narada Muni, they heard from Daumya Rishi, they heard from Lomasha Maharshi, right? They met with Hanumanji, and Yudhishthira Bhima asked that benediction. He said, my dear Hanumanji, he said, please be on the flag of Arjuna, not only on the flag of Arjuna. He said, not only on the flag of Arjuna, as I scream in the battlefield, as I am moving. And many times Bhima was not riding the chariot, he just jumped. He's a freestyle, he would jump into the field and scream loudly. So what would happen, Hanumanji, when Bhima would scream, Hanumanji would enhance the shouting of Bhima, causing shudders in the heart of the enemies. That is how Hanumanji contributed. Yudhishthira Maharaj had a great discussion with Nahusha, learned from him. And there was a time when Yudhishthira Maharaj had to deal with Duryodhan. Just see this one. We have heard the story of Duryodhan was almost captured by the Gandharvas. They tied him, they tied him, and then the servants of Duryodhan came asking, please Yudhishthira, protect our Maharaj, Duryodhan is stuck. And what did Bhima say? He laughed. He laughed so loudly, loud laugh. He said, very good, this is good. What we could not achieve, our enemies have achieved. The Gandharvas have achieved. That's great. He said, why the hell we have to go and save him? We hear the story, that is also the truth, but there is another truth also. What is the truth? Yudhishthira Maharaj told, my dear Bhim, don't say like this. In reality, we are 105 for the outsiders. We are Kurukula, and this Gandharvas are outsider, therefore I want you to protect. When we have a problem within us, we are 5 and they are 100. When the outsiders attack us, we are 105. This is very good principle. When an outside force attacks India, everybody should be united. You think this rule worked for Bhima? Bhima said, hell with it, I don't care. Read the Mahabharat. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was genuinely compassionate, it's brilliant, therefore cannot be compared to anybody to Yudhishthira Maharaj other than Yudhishthira Maharaj only. Otherwise you think Krishna is fool to make Yudhishthira Maharaj the king? Forcing him, this is your tapasya, you don't like, this is your tapasya, you be the king. No, he had the disposition of being a king also. Yes, there is a genuine reluctancy, but there was a limitless capacity also if he chose to do it. And what did Yudhishthira Maharaj tell Bhima? This is brilliant. He said, my dear Bhima, this is the best opportunity to break the confidence of Duryodhana. This is the best opportunity for you to break the confidence of Duryodhana. If you go and protect Duryodhana, when he sees that his worst enemy has given support and help to Duryodhana, that will destroy his confidence. Now just see the strategy making Duryodhana feel obliged, makes Duryodhana lose his confidence. And Bhima heard that, he ran there to protect our Duryodhana. He ran and then he protected Duryodhana, and that's what exactly happened. Duryodhana decided, read the Mahabharata, he said, I will not go back to Hastinapur. How can I go back? I have been protected by Bhima. It is impossible. I will give up my life. I am going to sit for meditation. I am going to sit for doing tapasya, and till I die I am not going to rise. He told Dushasana, you go and rule the kingdom. Tell our father. Why was he doing it? Because his confidence was destroyed. Of course he changed, but understand, whether Yudhishthira Maharaj was compassionate, yes, he was compassionate. Did he use the compassion for his advantage in regards to being a Kshatriya? He certainly did. He is a hypocrite? No. He harmonized his compassion and his alertness to grow in life. This is Yudhishthira Maharaj. Right. And then they met Markanda Rishi. They officially took shelter of Krishna. And eventually Indra came. See how many steps were there to establish Dharma. It is not simply words, Dharma will be established, Krishna will always win, whatever happens, Krishna's will is there to make us victorious. Krishna says, you also play with me. If you are playing a cricket, even if you have Virat Kohli, 2 Virat Kohlis and 2 Sachin Tendulkars in your team, you need 7 more people to be in that team. Otherwise, the victory will not happen. You need average students or average players there. So similarly, here so many steps were taken to make the Pandavas what they were. Indra taking the kavach of Karna. Yaksha Prashna. No, I did 3-day seminar on Yaksha Prashna. It's one of the most brilliant discussion between Yaksha and Yudhishthira Maharaj. When you go to answer the question in the school or college, you are prepared, you are very equipoised. Here Yudhishthira Maharaj lost his 4 brothers. He was thirsty like hell. Therefore he had sent his brothers to fetch water. He came looking for his brothers and also quench his thirst. What does he see? He sees all his 4 brothers are dead. But even though they are dead, he is so thirsty, he goes to the water first. First thing first, he goes to drink water. Only if he can drink water, he deal with the death of his brothers. And he is about to drink the water, he hears the voice. Don't do this. Your brothers did not follow. Answer my question, then only you drink water. He is so thirsty. He is willing to drink water first and then deal with his dead brothers. Now the unembodied voice told him, you cannot, first answer the question. And Yaksha was asking question, but Yaksha was not asking the objective question. 2 plus is equal to how much? 4. 6 plus is equal to how much? 12. Not like that. It was not a quiz. It was a dynamic question, and Yaksha did not expect such answers. And the answer of Yudhishthira Maharaj stunned him. He was amused and fascinated. In what condition is he answering this question? Who can do this? Therefore, Yudhishthira Maharaj has a strategy in life. He is very thoughtful. Even in the most challenging situation, he has the power to remain Mr. Cool and answer all the questions. And when he was asked for the benediction, he did not fall. He knew there is someone who is powerful here. When he asked him, whom do you want? Do you want to make me bring back? You ask one of your brother. And what did Yudhishthira Maharaj said? I want Nakul to be brought back to life. He said, why the Nakul you are doing? You should have asked for Bhima or Arjun. He said, no, it's unfair. I am there of my mother, and therefore we need to have the son of Madri. And then Yaksha comes back as his father, and he gives him the benediction, and he gives him the victory also, that you will never be recognized. In this whole thing, you will not be recognized. He gave that benediction to Yudhishthir. But what they did? When they came to Virata's kingdom, outskirts of the Virata's kingdom, there was a big discussion. Even though Yamaraj had given them benediction, you think they did not have faith? They had faith. But faith should not make one complacent. One still has to take all the precautions. Right. So they sat for a long time discussing what kind of Vesha or how they should change their forms to be 1 year incognito without being recognized. Along with the benediction, they also had the strategy. This is one of the best example of Daiva and Purushartha. Durvasmuni causing trouble to them, how they saved themselves by saved by Krishna. So if you see, there was an effort constantly, and while doing their efforts, there was helplessness also. And that helplessness was dealt by Krishna. So in this way the Pandavas, and then Arjuna asking that benediction from Krishna, and then eventually what happened was peace match. Krishna came there, and whose idea was that to ask for 5 villages? Yudhishthira Maharaj did not send Krishna. Krishna chose to go, and Yudhishthira Maharaj asked for 5 villages. Now one of the Vaishnava commentators says, why did he ask for 5 villages? And why did he make Duryodhan corner by asking this 5 villages? Very interesting. If you see from a political perspective, Yudhishthira Maharaj scored such a great point. He said, just give us the 5 villages. Why do you think Duryodhan didn't want to give 5 villages to the Pandavas? Of course he was stubborn, of course he was egoistic, of course he was blind, of course he was unreasonable, but at the same time Duryodhan is not stupid politician. He is a sharp politician. No? He gets the information, advice from some other source. Right. So similarly, this man knew, if I fulfill the promise of Yudhishthira Maharaj giving 5 villages, they are Kshatriyas. Within no time 5, they will make it 50, they will make it 500, and then they will take over. So I will anyway lose. Right, if I give, I will lose. It is better to die than to work under the Pandavas. So the stubborn Duryodhan chose to lose his life rather than compromise with the Pandavas. But that was the great idea of Yudhishthira Maharaj. And then eventually what happened? Of course they did not follow. The war was declared. And the Pandavas, basically Balramji, I think, chose the field of Kurukshetra. And what is Kurukshetra? A Kurukshetra is a home ground for the Pandavas. Does it mean that they played a lot of wars on the in the field of Kurukshetra? Right, like every Indians want to sit in the Lord Stadium to watch cricket match. And every cricket player wants to score a century in the Lord's cricket ground. And as far as I understand, this is very irony. There are a lot of cricket fans are sitting, watching. Sachin Tendulkar, as far as I know, never got to score century in Lords. I may be wrong completely, but this is what I heard from some boy. You know, what will happen? That will remain, oh my God, you know, this should have happened with me. So, the war was about to begin, peace was failed, Arjuna heard the Bhagavad Gita, he came back to the chariot, and then what happens? Yudhishthira Maharaj comes down from his chariot and he starts walking. Where does he walk to? He starts walking towards the Kaurava army, keeping all the weapons. It's causing anxiety to Bhima, it's causing anxiety to Arjuna. Arjuna asks this question to Krishna. Bhima looking staringly at Krishna, what's happening? What's happening? You know, he doesn't trust his brother so much in regards to what he could do. And all the soldiers from the Kaurava side, they are ridiculing Yudhishthira Maharaj. It was expected, that's what he would do. He would renounce. Right? In the first chapter we read, Dhritarashtra was hoping the favorable battlefield of Kurukshetra is beneficial to the Pandavas, but the favorable Tirtha could also make them give up their desire to fight. He was hoping like that. Yudhishthira walks. What does he do? He is one of the greatest of the master strategists he played. He goes to Bhishma Dev and he said, my dear Tat, my dear grandfather, I offer my obeisances to you, please bless me for my victory. Bhishma raises his hand, he said, I bless you my dear child, if you had not come to me, I would curse you, but since you have come to me, I bless you that you will be victorious. I give my blessings to you, but I will fight for Duryodhana. Split loyalty, right? Split loyalty of Bhishma Deva, unfortunately. He is fighting for Duryodhana, but blessing the victory of the Pandavas. Yudhishthira Maharaj made Duryodhana go crazy by this step. You know, seeing that your opposite person, you know, celebrating, blessing you, you know, and then he said, we are purchased by Duryodhana, therefore we can't fight on behalf of Dharma. He genuinely offered blessings, seek blessing from Bhishma. Bhishma gave the benediction. That is one strategy. And you know what he did? After doing the role of a grandson, cultural grandson, now he becomes the king also. He says, my dear grandfather, can you tell us the secret of bringing you down? How can we win against you? Bhishma says, you come on a very right appropriate day, you come, I will tell you. Then he comes to Dronacharya. Same thing happens. Offers obeisances. Dronacharya blesses him. He also says same thing. We are servant of the Artha. Artha is nobody's servant. We were not fighting for Dharma. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj did the duty of a student. Now he is the king also. And who is standing against him? It is no more his teacher, rather his opponent. But he is a teacher also. He is able to reconcile. He says, my dear teacher, please let me know how may I stop you from harming us. Now Krishna is also there. Think about the future battle. Krishna is carefully listening. Then Dronacharya said, any time I hear the departure of somebody is very close to me, I will stop my weapons. Krishna heard, wow, this is very good. He is attached to Ashwathama. At the right time, Krishna told, my dear Yudhishthira Maharaj, if you have to stop this Brahmana, who has become a pervert like Parshuram, not Parshuram is not pervert, but this person has gone crazy. As long as he is there, you will not win. He has to be told to stop, and only way to stop him to tell a lie. Yudhishthira Maharaj was little thoughtful, but he agreed. In this part of the story, Arjuna was the one who was very disturbed. He is so attached to his guru, his teacher. He doesn't want anything to happen. He wants to follow the Brahaspati Niti. But Yudhishthira Maharaj is very clear. Krishna had heard that when somebody, I get the news that somebody very close to me are out of this battle, I will keep my weapons. The lie became the weapon of Yudhishthira Maharaj. Then they went to Kripacharya. Now see to the Shalya. How visionary Yudhishthira Maharaj is. Who is Shalya? Shalya is the uncle of Pandavas, Madri's brother. What does he go and tell him? He asks the blessings from him also, but what he says is very interesting. Just see how Yudhishthira Maharaj had the vision what would happen in the future. Therefore, just to tell him he is a gambler, how could he gamble? He's no better than Duryodhan. He is a stupid logic by our stupid people. Go deep into the study. There are layers of realities of every personality. What does he say? He told Shalya, my dear Shalya, at some point of time, Duryodhan will ask you to become a chariot driver of Karna. Can you imagine this? Knowing the secrets of the other party forehand and predicting this could happen, and if something this happens, what could uncle do for him to support? Yudhishthira Maharaj told, keep provoking Karna. Keep provoking Karna. And why did he tell that? Because Karna, when he is disturbed, he does not perform very well. He is a good for exhibition match, not real life examination. When people have this stupid idea, during the exhibition match, Karna was so good, he did everything what Arjuna did, but better than him. Of course, accepted. But life is not an exhibition match. Life is a real match. Instantly when they had to go and bring the Guru Dakshina for Guru, what happened? Karna failed miserably and Arjuna flourished. The beauty of Arjuna is Arjuna always flourishes in the most challenging situation. And we are followers of Arjuna. And this COVID, is like a real match fighting against Drupad. Like yesterday Radhanath Maharaj was telling that we are on the battlefield. Right? Some warriors like Hanumanji win, and some warrior like Jatayu, they die also. But we also know sometimes some warriors become fearful of fighting the battle itself. They lose. And Karna is good in exhibition match, but in real life he failed. So Yudhishthira Maharaj knew this very well. Therefore he said, when you are on his chariot, keep troubling him, keep poking him. That is sufficient. Shalya agreed. And what happened? In this way, Yudhishthira Maharaj, by being a great strategist, by transforming his life from being simply good, what he became? From being simply good, he also became smart. He maintained his culture of respect to the superiors, but he also defended his cause. When he defended his cause and activated himself under the guidance of Krishna, did Krishna made him like that smart? You don't hear in the Mahabharat Krishna sitting and teaching him. He doesn't do that. Of course, everything is happening by the will of the Lord, no doubt. But you don't see that. But being a king, a reluctant king, and therefore an interesting principle in life is only those who are reluctant, at the same time they have a disposition, as much as they are transparent, as much they are selfless, that much they can actually use the principle of Shukraniti. No? Otherwise, if I have an agenda, somebody, like I was telling, I want to do this seminar on the great Shivaji. When Shivaji Maharaj had to bargain with one of the great or infamous commanders of the Adil Shah army, the Vijapur kingdom, he had taken vow in his assembly that I will crush Shivaji, I will kill him. And Shivaji knew that he is going to kill him. Shivaji Maharaj knew that he is going to kill him. So Shivaji Maharaj was looking for the right spot to meet. And Shivaji Maharaj had his lawyer. Usually the lawyers were very religious Brahmanas, transparent. They knew multi languages. They would go and talk, bring back the news. And Shivaji Maharaj's lawyer, Shivaji Maharaj told him, he said, agree for anything what Afzal Khan says. Don't say no to him. If he asks for 15 foot, yes. If he asks for this many horses, yes. If he asks for this many felons, say yes. He said, you say yes for everything. He said, somehow or other bring him to the lap of the mountain called as Pratapgarh. Pratapgarh is the fort in the Maharashtra, Raigad area. He said, bring him there. And once you bring him there, I will manage. After I manage him, then because you have lied so much, you do prayashchitta, will organize a prayashchitta for you. But what was his purpose? The purpose was not simply becoming the leader. So therefore, when somebody justifies, I want to give, this clarity. Somebody wants to justify saying that I am doing it for Krishna, I am doing it for a higher cause. It's a great risk involved, because you cannot justify. The consequences of karma will certainly come. Just by covering to our own self that I am doing it for higher cause could be greatly risky unless there is a limitless transparency and height of selflessness. When there is a height of selflessness, one can take. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, he cheated, no doubt. He played a game of deception, no doubt. He became victorious in the game of battle using some wrong means. Why? Because the other party was nasty, evil, dangerous, he used. But if you study carefully, Yudhishthira Maharaj never became a Shakunin in himself. That is the art of life. By the grace of God, Krishna, and powerful transparency in life, what can one do? To study oneself first. Whether I have the tendencies of Duryodhana, but claiming myself to be Yudhishthira Maharaj, and therefore justifying my cheating. Duryodhana was, through and through sinful. But here in this age of Kali, that conflict of, sitting Yudhishthira Maharaj in our own heart and Duryodhana also in our own heart. So, am I working for Duryodhana or am I working for Yudhishthira Maharaj's Chetana? That is most important, and then comes all these strategies. I thank you very much. We'll stop here. If you have any questions or comments, we'll take some questions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Govind, for a wonderful seminar. People can submit questions on the chat box, but we have several questions from yesterday which we can address now. So someone asked yesterday, does it mean the gambling match was destined and it was not the fault of Yudhishthira Maharaj? Where is the concept of free will here? Was he used by Lord Krishna here? Many people also feel very angry about this. How do we present it to them? Can you please dispel this doubt?
So therefore, I think I did a 3-day seminar on the whole principle of Purushartha and Daiva. Purushartha is free will and Daiva is destiny. If you understand carefully Gita, there is no conflict in this regard about free will and destiny. That you can only reflect, how do I know about the gambling match? Only after the gambling match has happened. And therefore you are talking, oh, gambling match was destined. In your life, take your own example, whoever is asking this question, up until now we are suffering from COVID, right? We are suffering from COVID. But do we have any guarantee what's going to happen tomorrow? Just like I gave the example of that stock marketer he sold everything. You don't have any understanding of what's happening tomorrow. Therefore, you have to keep working based upon what is available today. Do you have any resources about what's going to happen tomorrow? Whether free will is there or not, but you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Therefore, your responsibility, what scripture says, you have to fight. You keep fighting for developing that medicine and healing yourself. Therefore, we have 100% free will for tomorrow's activities. And the destiny we talk about yesterday, till yesterday whatever happened is my destiny, and part of that destiny also my stupidity also. Some things we made a mistake. Again, if you say only thing that okay, it's all happened because of destiny, I don't learn lesson from my past mistake. Therefore, even for our past, only time you can say it was in my destiny when you are successful. No, when you are successful, you can say it was my destiny. But in management, when you manage your life, you also strategize, you analyze, why was I successful? This 4 reasons I was successful. For the next activities, I will use this 4 principle, and the times have changed, I will also add some other principle. We live life based upon analysis, strategy, critical thinking. There is a philosophical reality and there is an application reality. For a philosophical reality, we talk about destiny. For an application reality, we talk about endeavor. So there is no confusion about free will and destiny. Yes?
Yes, Prabhu, I have 2 questions that are related, so I'll just say the 2 questions. How come Dushashan touched Draupadi? She was Sati, she was born from Agni. And someone else has asked, if Dharma couldn't save Draupadi from being disrobed, then people may question Dharma. What is the use of Dharma if it cannot safeguard basic human rights?
So therefore, again, Dharma does not guarantee. Dharma does not guarantee that when you are practicing Dharma, Dharma will immediately save you the way you want. In the Mahabharat, when Vibhishan was asking benediction from Lord Brahma, you know what he says? Vibhishan says, my dear Lord Brahmaji, I want to practice Dharma in all conditions of life. Even in the most dangerous situation, I don't want to give up Dharma. And what is the most dangerous situation? He said, giving up Dharma. That itself is the most dangerous situation. So they are not fruitive. I will practice Dharma, only Dharma gives me good result. That is meant for very superficial, if you do good, the good will happen. If you do bad, the bad will happen. You tell it for the kindergarten children. If you are adult and you are hoping that everything has to happen good because I am doing good, there is no such guarantee. Bad will give bad result eventually, but good does not guarantee, because sometimes to establish Dharma, one has to sacrifice also. There has to be many Abhimanyus. The Pandavas, to become victorious, they had to sacrifice all their sons. Draupadi sacrificed so much. Her sons did not become the king. Her grandchildren did not become the king. In fact, Subhadra's grandson became king of Hastinapur. And you don't find Draupadi saying, oh, how the hell it happened like this. It is not fair. So therefore, Dharma instantly does not guarantee you protection. And if you ask this question to Draupadi, if you ask this question to Draupadi, what do you think about, Dharma, did it protect you? She will stand by and she will tell the ordeal, what she went through. And she will say, when we do this seminar on Draupadi, you will understand that great Draupadi was the greatest integrator of all relationship while being sheltered by Krishna. And what happened to Dushasan for touching the fire, the fire, yes, she was coming from Agni, and when she touched, when Dushasan touched Draupadi, he already invited the seed of his own brutal destruction. But it had to take 13 years. Not only Dushasan, We discussed that yesterday. It was not only Dushasana was destroyed, everyone who was simply observing it. Dhritarashtra had to stay and die every moment to hear the news of his son's death. Gandhari has to hear. As I said, everybody was involved, including Vikarna had to face death. Only person who was not supposed to die is Vidura. Rest everybody had to go away. And Pandavas were protected only because their relationship with Draupadi. So therefore, how can we say this did not happen? He touched and he suffered for that. Any other question?
Yes, we have a question from Jagannath Sharan. Cool. He asked, yesterday it was mentioned that satisfaction is contrary to progress. How do we understand our desire to progress even on the material level?
Now, what is the last point he said? Come back.
How do we understand our desire to progress even on the material level?
Yeah, just it's a very, as I said, I wrote this book on money and Mahabharat. There we are discussing few points. Lakshmi is speaking to Rukmini. Rukmini asked Lakshmi, my dear Lakshmi, where do you reside? What is the place of your residence? So Lakshmi says three things. He said, first one principle, she said, I do not stay where people are satisfied. So what is the concept of Rajarshi? The concept of Rajarshi, what we read repeatedly in the Shastras, especially those are, if you are a Shukadeva Goswami, having no relationship, absolutely no relationship, you don't have a mission, you don't have anything other than practicing your spiritual life with complete absorption, where you don't have your kutir, you don't have your ashrams, you don't have your disciples, you have nobody with you, then you can say, I damn care about this whole principle of satisfaction does not give rise to growth. He said, I don't care. Shukadeva Goswami doesn't care for all these things because he doesn't need. The problem is, we need growth also, and we try to imitate Shukadeva Goswami. That's a big conflict. So if you are functioning in the material world, what is the solution given by Krishna? Krishna gives the solution in such a way, Nishkam Karma. Nishkam Karma means you keep playing your part with full attention. Right? You can score 100. But if you come to the cricket ground, right, the Britishers gave cricket to India, let us give that example only. When you come to the cricket ground, if you are satisfied saying that even if I go out for 0, it doesn't matter, why the hell are you on the ground itself? No? But at the same time, if you go out for 0 and you become so crazy of going out for 0, you say, I will never play cricket again because it is so painful to go out for 0. If you are ready to go out for 0, then only you can score 100. If you are willing to face that pain of going out for 0, then only you can face scoring 100 runs. Otherwise, you are satisfied with 0, you will be thrown out of the team. So therefore, what Gita is teaching us, externally you be like the king, Raja, and internally you become like Rishi. Externally you also become Rishi, internally also become Rishi, then you don't grow materially. You don't grow material just by being what you are. See the steps what the Pandavas took, so many steps they took. This is Yudhishthira Maharaj, the Mahajan. If he is taking so many steps for a growth, and why was he growing? He was not growing simply for his own sake, he was growing for the sake of establishing dharma. So therefore growth means there is some anxiety, and if you are not willing to take that anxiety, you want a life of satisfaction and also growth, that is nothing but stupidity. Lakshmi doesn't agree with this, logic doesn't agree with it. Yes.
And someone's asked, how do we overcome greed, which is like gambling?
There is a difference between greed and dharmic ambition. If you don't have, again we were discussing today while taking lunch, that if you see that, oh, I forgot the point. If you see that if somebody wants to grow, should we call it as greed? If you want to increase your family, is it greed? If you want to make money, is it greed? Greed and ambition, they are very close to each other. When ambition becomes obsessive, there is a concept of isolation and integration. What is isolation? Isolation means that you want to be extremely specialized. You want to be so specialized. Very specialized people, what happens? They become poor in relationships, the other aspects of life. If you want to be exceptionally specialized, you want to make so much of money, I don't care any family, you can do that, you take that risk. Right, that is called as greed. When there is no integration in life, that is greed. If you are able to integrate life, your spirituality, your relationship, your health, your social stability, and also make tons of money, which Rup Goswami gives simple example. What is that? Yukta ahara. One should not be eating too much, all that things. Krishna is giving yukta ahara, yukta vihara, yukta chestasa karmasu, yukta sapnava bodhasya, yoga bhavati dukkha. Read that verse, yukta ahara. Ahara is not only food, anything you consume. Money is also ahar only. It is the ahar for the ego, ahar for the body, ahar for the intelligence, ahar for the mind. Anything which you consume, if it is over, then it is greed. Otherwise, it is not greed. Any other question? Last question we'll take.
So Narendra, for the last question, has asked, how would you compare the story of Dhritarashtra's letter to Yudhishthira and Lord Vishnu's request to Pratismati on behalf of Indra?
Very simple, because Prithu Maharaj, Krishna was satisfied with Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj was almost close. The problem was Indra was disturbed by the 100, the number 100. He wanted to be the record holder, and Prithu Maharaj had already done 99. Lord Vishnu did not tell Prithu Maharaj that you suffer, height of, distinction between you and Indra. It is not that Indra is 100 and Prithu Maharaj is nothing and Vishnu is telling cooperate. That will be wrong on the part of Vishnu, because he will never say like that. This is small. He said, let him be happy with his 100 yagyas. I am happy with your 99 yagyas. So Prithu Maharaj immediately realized there is no injustice here. If somebody tells where you have a brother, he takes everything away from you, literally everything. He throws away from your home and then takes that home also, and then takes all the property which supposed to belong to you also 50%, right? So then you both go to your father, and the father is telling, beta, you remember story of Prithu Maharaj? Lord Vishnu told to Indra, he gave the judgment in favor of Indra. This is not the connection. Here Prithu Maharaj is not starving, right? And here Dhritarashtra was killing the Pandavas. So therefore it is not at all correct comparison in one sense. When there is a prosperity, like if I got 4 rotis and my brother has got 3.5 rotis, it is fulfilling. My mother might say, okay, it's okay, don't worry, aaj aap 3.5 kha lo, kal tumko 4 milega. He might say, okay, no problem. I take all the roti of my brother, and my mother tells my brother, okay, don't worry, don't fight, you should be humble. Bolega, are khana nahi mil raha hai, I have nothing to eat, and you are giving me this lecture on humility. So then she becomes a violent maker by preaching the philosophy of humility. Okay.
RG Media YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe.